I wanted to make 2 points, one a legal point and the other a cultural point. The legal point is that many people are under the impression that abortion is only legal the first 3 months of a pregnancy. That is not true. Both in the state of Florida and throughout the country, abortion is legal through all 9 months of pregnancy. In 1973, when the Roe versus Wade decision was decided, there was a companion case that most people are not aware of called Doe versus Bolton. This was challenging a Georgia statute, and it had the exact same oral argument schedule and briefing schedule as Roe. It was a companion case. And Mary Roe was the pseudonym for the plaintiff. Bolton was the attorney general who was being sued because it was his job to enforce the law. And the holding in Doe versus Bolton basically was that it was the same 7-2 decision in terms of the justices that voted on it as there were in Roe versus Wade. But the court said that the woman may obtain an abortion after viability if it's necessary to protect her health. Many of you know viability is the time in which we can sustain a baby outside the mother's womb. The problem with that construct that even Justice O'Connor recognized in subsequent decisions that the date of viability is moving as technology advances. We can now sustain life much later and longer than we could previously earlier. And so it's only the substance surfactant in the baby's lung. Once we figure out how to deal with that, then the date of viability is almost going to be gone. But the point is that what the court decided was in Doe was that the health of the mother was a justifiable reason to have the abortion. And the problem is they described health in incredibly broad terms, using the words, in light of all the factors, quote, physical, emotional, psychological, familiar, woman's age, relevant to her well-being. Well, I don't know of a woman that goes through a pregnancy that doesn't have stress, doesn't have tension, doesn't have, emotional issues. And so it's a part of the process of pregnancy itself. And so Doe versus Bolton, basically, while Roe gave you the trimester system and set out the viability criteria, Doe basically opened the entire door up and made it legal. I've actually debated this before, and I have to actually show people the law because they're so in utter disbelief that this is actually legal. And in fact, Patty's going to tell you is going on here on a weekly basis and has been for many years, as we saw in the film. But Chapter 390 in Florida law, the very first part says termination in the 3rd trimester. And it is available where 2 physicians certify in writing to the fact that to a reasonable degree of medical probability, the termination of the pregnancy is necessary to save the life or preserve the health of the pregnant woman. And again, that's so broad. You could say I'm stressed or I'm depressed, and it justifies us. Patty's going to tell us about how the physicians don't even abide by the 2 certified 2 physicians in writing many times as well. But that is the law in the state of Florida, unfortunately. The second point I'd like to make is cultural, and culturally I think that the problem is that what we have is that we are no longer a society that is committed to the general welfare of the society. We're no longer a society that's committed to the best interest of children or families or the common good of society. We worship a God, and that God is called personal autonomy. And it trumps every other factor, and unfortunately in this debate on abortion, it is most prominent, where we're willing to allow personal autonomy to end the life of another human being, the most precious and vulnerable human beings, arguably, on the face of the earth. And so that is an enormous problem that we have as a culture. Why America is founded in this concept of individual rights, that's different than personal autonomy. Personal autonomy trumps everything else. And so we have to rethink how the culture thinks about individual rights and decisions, because while some of that is good in an economic context and even a political context, we're seeing things that are just unthinkable because we elevate personal autonomy that trumps every other interest in society.